Hey, what's up? Today I'm going to be doing a 2026 bookshelf tour, or I'm going to start this bookshelf tour series with part one today. Going to be going over my whole collection that I have in this little bedroom, and I'm going to talk about each book that I have to show you. And that's it. It'll be a record for what I had in 2026, and it can also help me out in seeing if I need to get rid of some stuff or if I have any gaps in my collection. But yeah, hope this is cool. I'm not going to talk about each book for very long because there's a lot. Today I'm just going to be doing the books on my dresser, which include this cheap Amazon thing I got a while ago. Amazon tree leaf shelf, and then some more books. This mostly contains all my mass market paperbacks. Then we have some hardcovers over here. So just going to get into it with the top shelf, which is mostly science fiction. First we have I, Asimov. This is Isaac Asimov's memoir. I think it's fantastic. Asimov is great with writing about himself because that's the topic he loves best. You're either going to love him or hate him. I love this. It's great. It was published posthumously, but Asimov wrote 99% of this. So really great stuff. Next up, we have Foundation, also by Asimov, one of the great sci-fi series of the 1950s. I really like Foundation. I've only read the first 3 novels. Next up, Born with the Dead by Robert Silverberg. 3 novellas about the spirit of man, the woman in a dress on the cover. I haven't read Robert Silverberg. Three for Tomorrow by Silverberg, Blish, and Zelazny. 3 little novellas. Very short. This is an old copy. I always try to get mass market paperbacks when I'm used book hunting, just because I feel like I'm rescuing them from death. Here we have Philip K. Dick, The 3 Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, with a cover that I have seen on various Dune editions. Interesting cover, but it does fit Dune more than this. This cover does not fit at all. I think it's an error. But this is a hypnotic, wacky story about drugs from Philip K. Dick. This is my favorite Philip K. Dick book by far. I haven't had great experiences with him otherwise. I think he's okay, but this is my favorite by far. It's really the ending I thought was really sad. Palmer Eldritch. Arthur C. Clarke, Imperial Earth. More on Clarke later. I have not read this one. Another Arthur C. Clarke, Childhood's End. I really like this. It's the story of aliens taking over the Earth and kind of a commentary on power and when you should submit to power, or if you should submit to power, if they're good, even if they're tyrannical, or what. Really interesting stuff Clarke talks about in this book. I liked it a lot better than Rendezvous with Rama, which was a little boring, like big dumb object sci-fi. But this is my favorite Clarke so far. Finishing up with the Arthur C. Clarke, we have 2001: A Space Odyssey. Of course, the famous movie. This was written in collaboration with Kubrick and the screenplay of the movie. I haven't read it. Have not read it yet. I don't know why. I should have read it by now. Way Station by Clifford D. Simak. This is from the 60s. I think 62 or 63. 64. This is Simak is known for writing Midwestern sci-fi. I like this concept here that there's this guy and he basically can't die, but he fought in the Civil War and now it's the mid-1900s and the CIA is investigating this guy in Wisconsin because there's been folklore around this guy where he's been 30 years old for a century, and they're what's up with this guy? Turns out he's running a way station, a traveler's rest point for the rest of the universe, where aliens just travel in when they're visiting. They're not even visiting Earth. They're transiting through whatever faster than light teleportation travel they have. And while the main character, I think his name's Enoch Wallace, is in his way station, he ages at a minute pace. So he only ages when he goes outside. I wish Simak stuck the landing here because this would have been an all-timer for me, but he got a little weird at the end. So good book, though, when looked at as a whole, I think. Nice, quaint, simple sci-fi. The Space Merchants by Cyril Kornbluth and Fred Pohl. I described it, I did a video on this actually, as like Mad Men mixed with science fiction, where the plot revolves around corporate advertisers in the future trying to buy the planet of Venus. But our main character, I think his name's Mitchell Courtney, he's not an advertising executive, but he's making his way up the chain, and he gets wrapped up into a lot of different conspiracies, and it was actually more of a fractured novel than the premise led it to be. I don't know if they exactly knew where they were going, but an interesting read regardless. Last book on this top shelf is New Maps of Hell by Kingsley Amis. This is not a novel, this is some science fiction criticism where he surveys the magnificent panorama of this world of fantasy and science fiction of Jules Verne and H.G. Wells, blah, 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 blah. Basically analyzes the field. This was written in 1960. I haven't read it yet, I really want to read it, but I'm worried I'm going to destroy this. The binding is on its last legs. But I'm really interested in science fiction criticism, and I know Amis is a pretty good nonfiction writer, so excited to get to this. This next shelf is kind of a mixed bag. First up, we got two books from Stephen Jay Gould. Ever Since Darwin and The Panda's Thumb. These are the first two volumes of Gould's essays in natural history, or at least the first two collected volumes. I'm not sure if I want these. I don't know if these books are rare in mass market. I want to read Gould eventually. I want to read some science, some natural history, but I just don't have any interest now. So these might be on the chopping block. Got Horsemen Pass By Larry McMurtry. This is the only Western I think I've ever read, which I haven't really been... it's not my go-to genre at all. But this is McMurtry's debut. It's about a young boy growing up into adulthood in Thalia, Texas, I think. It's like mid-20th century Texas, and he lives with his grandfather, and the boy is torn between working on the grandfather's farm and being the inheritor of the farm, or traveling outside and finding his own way in life. So, kind of morose story, but I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was really well written, and lots of emotional depth here for a debut novel. Land of Unreason by Léon Sprat-Ducamp and Fletcher Pratt. This is a bad book. It's basically like a Alice in Wonderland, Fairyland kind of ripoff, where our main character, who in the end of the book has this wild transformation that I don't even know what to say about that, but it's basically he gets transported into Fairyland and stuff is going wrong there, so they enlist the main character Fred Barber to try and go on a quest and fix things, and it's just a bunch of like episodic, fantastical encounters that Barber gets into, and it's not very interesting, and there's a lot of thinly veiled commentaries on politics and such, and it's just kind of a mid to bad fantasy book, I think. Next up, The Glory That Was by Léon Sprat-Ducamp. This is a Greek-inspired time travel fantasy. Haven't read it, I hauled it recently. The King of Elfland's Daughter by Lord Dunsany. I have not read this, but I'm really interested in Dunsany as one of the progenitors of modern fantasy before Tolkien, along with E.R. Edison and some other guys that I'm thinking about too many books right now. But Dunsany, I've heard he's a beautiful writer when he gets going in fantasy. And King of Elfland's Daughter is his so-called masterpiece. He's in public domain, so I have a lot of them on my Kobo, but I found this before I even did e-readers. The Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. I read this like 5 years ago. It's about sword fighting, basically, and you can apply a lot of the lessons. I think Musashi was a samurai. I don't think he ever lost, but it's like the art of war, kind of, but for sword fighting. And a lot of it's actually like how to fight with a sword and like different strategies. Like when you get inside the opponent's defenses, you stick tight with your head, body, and legs. The average person gets his head and legs in quickly, but the body shrinks back. Sticking to an opponent means that you stick so close that there is no gap between your bodies. This should be investigated carefully. So that there were some elements that were philosophically of interest, I think, or of like strategic interest, but I don't really think I needed to read this. Maybe it's worth a reread. I don't know. Let me know. Switching genres again. Zen and the Art of Writing by Ray Bradbury. Releasing the Creative Genius Within You. It's basically a collection of introductions and prefaces written by Bradbury, mixed with some articles on writing. It's not a handbook for writing or anything. It's just Bradbury getting excited about writing and then transferring his excitement to you, the reader, he's an infectious creative genius, I think, and anytime you read Ray Bradbury, you're going to become inspired to write, regardless of if he's talking about writing or not. But not every piece here is great, but the vibe it gives you within the realm of your own creativity, I think, is pretty unmatched. And last up, I hauled this very recently, The Last Defender of Camelot by Roger Zelazny, short stories. I've read his Unicorn Variation short stories before, but haven't read this. Next up is basically the Traumatic Book Club shelf. Mostly works that would be considered for the book club, although I've read most of them by now. First up, I never actually talked about this. I read it in March. Wild Swans by Yung Chang. This is one of the best books I think I've ever read, and it is one of the most traumatic reads I've ever had. It's a tri-generational memoir about 20th century China. Yung Chang was born in the early Mao period, I think like 1950 or something. And it covers the life of her grandmother, the life of her mother, and Chang's life as well, before Mao died. And it's, the subject matter is crazy. So much death and destruction from the warlord period to the Japanese invasion of Manchuria to the civil war between the communists and the nationalists to World War II, then to Mao and everything, the Great Leap Forward and the red cards and everything. Absolutely crazy. The personal memories that Chang is able to share, especially about her mother and father. This is an amazing book. And if you're looking for a traumatic read as well, 20th century China was absolutely wild. So, Wild Swans, can't recommend it enough. It's a big book. This is 700 pages, but really recommend this one. All Quiet on the Western Front, of course, by Eric Maria Remarque. This is the Traumatic Book Club pick in February. I think February. One of the best novels I think I've ever read in terms of... It covers a German soldier's experience in World War I. And it's truly heartbreaking, especially being being from America, knowing that was the enemy in World War One, but everybody, for the most part, it's just people fighting people. They're normal people fighting normal people. And the people that are pulling the strings at the top might be evil, but the most of the foot soldiers, as evidenced by this, are just guys, just dudes, or ladies as well. Really heartbreaking stuff, and a great novel from Maria Remarque. And Frank's Diary. Still need to get to this. Yeah. Hiroshima by John Hersey. This is a journalistic account of the fallout from Hiroshima, the atomic bomb that was dropped there in 1945. And Hersey interviews 6 subjects who all had different experiences when the bomb hit, and how they all survived, and what they observed during the time when bodies were flowing through the river and everything was disintegrated and all the hospitals were blown up. This is a traumatic read too. I've definitely talked about this before, but very slim, 150 pages. You can knock this out really quickly, but it is really heavy. It's a heavy book. Night by Elie Wiesel. This, compared to Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which was filled with a lot of hope, this is a very bitter account of Wiesel's time during the Holocaust, which I'm not saying he doesn't have the right to be bitter, but it's a very pessimistic account, which I won't even comment on that. I'm just noting the comparisons and the contrasts between those two, in case you wanted to read one or the other. But I really like this. I know there's some concerns about the actual validity of what happened, but I think it captures that rightful outrage that somebody that happened to should hold or could hold. So yeah, very traumatic as well. Last up, this was the April pick for Traumatic Book Club, One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I read this copy and then I realized it wasn't the authorized translation, so I got that one from the library. Not sure if I'm going to keep this one, although this translation by Hayward and Hingley, it wasn't that different from the H.T. Willett's translation, which is authorized. The main thing were some censored parts. Like, the writing itself wasn't that much of an upgrade to the authorized. It was mostly about the material of the novel. But this isn't very traumatic. It's mostly a mundane account of one day in a Soviet labor camp in the mid-20th century. It sucked. It still sucked. Not that there wasn't a lot of gore or anything, but just one day in the prisoner's life. Good book. There's a lot to think about and chew on. I made a video noting its subtleties, I really like the subtlety. Next shelf, some sci-fi and classics. Of course, Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is a good book. I'm due for a reread. I last read it like 3 or 4 years ago. I always like it when I read it, but I'm still waiting for it to hit me really hard. I'll do these next 4 books together. We got my J.D. Salinger collection. We have Franny and Zooey. Catcher in the Rye. 9 Stories. And the only one I haven't read yet, Raise High the Roof Beam Carpenters and Seymour, an introduction. So Salinger's one of my favorite modern American authors. I like him a lot more than Hemingway. But I always describe him as he writes books about depressed intellectuals who chain smoke cigarettes. And I love that vibe. I love the way that he thinks, and I love the way his characters think and act. 9 Stories is my favorite by far, then Franny and Zooey. Then I like Catcher in the Rye, but I don't think it's all that it's hyped up to be. But it is an interesting. I keep saying interesting. I think it's a good coming of age story of a lousy kid into manhood, but he's still just a kid, so shouldn't be that hard on him, I don't think. But, yeah, I need to finish this last book so I can round out my Salinger reading, and I have a biography of him too. I want to read that. Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451, good book. More dystopian, The Giver. This used to be in my top 10 novels. In my top 10 novels, my favorite top 10 novels video I made, it was like higher than 7th or higher than 8th. I don't know. But it's kind of slipping on my list the more that I read. I still think it's good, but it hasn't really lasted with me the way I would have wanted a top 10 novel to last with me. So, yeah, The Giver. Switching it up. Espionage, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. This is John le Carré's third novel, and it's his best of the first 3. A really tightly packed and gripping, I think it was gripping, Cold War spy story about a spy who's kind of washed up, and he basically goes on one last mission, and there's some double and triple crosses. But really, actually a really sad spy story. Usually spy stories are kind of exciting, I think. This one was just kind of sad, but really, really great. I love this book. Slaughterhouse-Five, a classic, one of my favorite books of all time. Due for a reread. Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. It's a novel, but it's a novel of stories, short stories about spaceflight to Mars and humanity's impact on Mars and humans being an overall nuisance on the solar system. Really great. I think I like Illustrated Man more, but I love Ray Bradbury, so it's hard to really rank them, but this is great. This is mostly not mass market paperbacks, but they're full size. Here we have the Notebooks of Albert Camus, 1935 to 1942. I just saw this randomly, and I like Camus as an author, so I picked it up. I haven't even poked through it yet. We have more Camus now. We have The Plague, The Fall, and The Stranger. Camus used to be my favorite author. I'm not sure if he is now, but I love all 3 of these novels. They're all different in their own ways. My favorite, as of now, is still The Stranger. I think the way that the character of Meursault and the existential revolt that he goes through based on the way he's treated by others is just astounding, what Camus did for such a simple novel. But The Fall is great in its own narrative, and The Plague, the way these people in the city of Oran, it's in Algeria, the way they bind together and drift apart during this, however so long this plague impacts the city. Really great novel too. I've read some of Camus' other stuff and I don't like it as much, but these 3 novels are peak for mid-20th century. Another existentialist, but different in philosophy. We've got Sartre with Nausea. Interesting cover. I think I would really like this book, but I have not read it yet. The black and white vintage trend. We have Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground and Crime and Punishment. This is the only Dostoevsky novel or novella I've read. Notes from Underground. I will talk about it in my upcoming Traumatic Book Club video because this is the book for June. Very short, it's pretty good. So check it out if you haven't. And Crime and Punishment I have not read yet, but hoping to get to it soon. I found this at Goodwill recently, which was awesome. And last up, we have a German-Swiss author. Yeah. Hermann Hesse, Damien. This is translated by, I believe, the Michaels. Michael Roloff and Michael Lebeck. And then I also have Siddhartha in 2 different translations. Both of these are 5-star novels, in my opinion. Damien is kind of like a German portrait of the artist as a young man. They're both intellectual coming-of-age stories, which I'm just a sucker for those. Artistic, intellectual, coming-of-age. Ugh, I just love it. So Damien is my favorite Hesse so far, but Siddhartha as well. I read this little copy. A great spiritual journey novel of really fantastic stuff from Hesse, and I need to read more of his stuff, but I don't own any of it other than these 3. Richard Cowper, The Road to Corlay, which is apparently in the towering tradition of A Canticle for Leibowitz, which is one of the most famous 20th century sci-fi works, A Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter M. Miller Jr. I believe it has a lot of religious themes, but I don't know much about it. I haven't read it yet. You can see that guy. Religious themes. Another Asimov work, got Nemesis, one of the last sci-fi books he published, I believe in the early 90s. This is a book that I've had forever, and I don't know why I haven't read it yet. Flowers for Algernon. I know the concept. I've seen the Always Sunny in Philadelphia parody, but I haven't read this yet. I know I would like it. Got Bulgakov, Master and Margarita, kind of the fantastical, ribald, uproarious epic of modern Moscow. Love The Cat with the Gun. Haven't read it yet. Just hauled this, one of the earliest modern Russian novels, Hero of Our Time by Mikhail Lermontov. This is translated by Vladimir Nabokov. And I also just hauled this as well. We got Black Unicorn by Tanith Lee. I only picked it up because Matt at Bookpilled likes Tanith Lee, and I respect his judgment in sci-fi and fantasy from the 20th century. So I just picked it up. Then we got 4 books down on this little bottom. Somerset Maugham, A Writer's Notebook, and a penguin, old penguin. These are journal writings that he kept in the early to mid 20th century, or like his reflections on writing itself. I don't know, but he's considered one of the greatest short story writers ever, so I picked it up for $1. Lawrence Durrell, A Dark Labyrinth. This seems to be inspired by Crete and the story of the Minotaur, Theseus, Ariadne, but it's a novel. Durrell wrote the Alexandria Quartet, which you can see right there. Haven't read any Durrell yet, but I have a feeling I would like this book. We have The Adventures of Robin Hood by E. Charles Vivian. Pretty basic Robin Hood stories, just all the famous vignettes. Vivian was I won't say he was a hack writer, but he did a lot of work in many different genres, and I enjoyed these stories, but there's nothing that, other than the Robin Hood mythos itself, that would pull me back to this book. But good illustrations and fun to read. Here we got a play, Man of La Mancha. I read this a month or 2 ago. I had never heard of it. Very famous theater run in the 60s and onwards in the United States. It was written by Dale Wasserman, but it's a play inspired by Don Quixote, and it features Miguel de Cervantes as well as Quixote, Sancho Panza, Aldonza, the Dulcinea character. And I thought it was a great, not a rendition, I guess, but a great work inspired by Quixote, and the songs are pretty good too. So, yeah. I just love Don Quixote content, and you can't go wrong with this. Last up, we got some literary critics and literary essays, I guess we can call them. First, we got the gargantuan behemoth, mega mammoth, Gore Vidal's United States Essays, 1952 to 92. A huge thing. Another critic, commentator, we got V.S. Pritchett's collected essays. Mostly just book reviews from what I've heard. Another huge 1,000+ page thing. Same thing, Arguably by Hitchens, another absolute chonker, more just essays and book reviews. And we move to The Art of the Personal Essay. This is an anthology of personal essays, edited by Philip Lopate. I've seen Lopate's work on other essay anthologies, so I assume he's an expert in the field. But this goes from Montaigne and other people all the way up to the present day, whenever he wrote this. I'm planning to pick through this at some point, maybe put it on my nightstand and read some essays every night. In a similar vein to the personal essay, we have the newspaper column, which is slowly dying, but we have Deadline Artists, America's greatest newspaper columns. Maybe in the future we'll have America's greatest Substack pieces or something. Here, I got this at the Brattle Bookshop in Boston. Homage to Daniel Shea's collected essays by Gore Vidal. These are included, I believe, in the United States, but this is just a smaller work. And it's got a Mylar cover, which is nice. And finally, last, certainly not least, we have the Everyman's Library collected works of Montaigne. Absolutely fantastic find at the Brattle Bookshop. Not only does it have the essays, it has the travel journals, and what else does it have? And it also has his letters. So, huge thing, like 1,400 pages, 1,400 pages, all Montaigne, translated by Donald M. Frame, who has a respectable translation. One of the best, from what I've heard. That is every book that I have on my dresser where I keep my clothes, including this leafy, tree-like bookshelf. So, that's it. I hope to continue with my other shelves, and then I have a table. Hopefully can knock this out in summer 2026 before I have to move out of here, and then I can reassess my collection. Most of these are keepers for now, until I read them at least. The only ones that I considered at the time were the Stephen Jay Gould ones. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I guess I'll do since this video is already long, I'll just keep it going. I just read this book. Finished it yesterday. It's Quixote by Ilan Stavans. It basically goes through the history of Miguel de Cervantes, the novel Don Quixote, the life and times of Spain and the world while Cervantes was writing. And he published Quixote in 1605 and 1615, parts 1 and 2 respectively. And it also goes through the history of influence that Don Quixote has had on the world, and on the Hispanic culture, the world of literature, the world of thought and idea. And it also goes through the history of the translation as well, which I love commentaries on translation. That might have been my favorite part. But I think Don Quixote is one of the greatest novels ever, and Don Quixote is one of the greatest characters ever. One of my favorites for sure. And I'll just love reading anything Quixote adjacent, or within the Quixotiana. I don't know. Is that a word? Am I being quixotic now? I don't know. Yeah, I've been talking a lot. Losing my voice a little. Yeah. Okay, now I'm done. Talk to you later.